I'll get your thoughts first, Gabe. What was your thoughts initially when you heard that Kyrie Irving was going to be playing alongside Luka Doncic?
I'll be honest, I was quite shocked. I just looked at it and I'm like, the Mavericks, like, huh? But the more I thought about it, I'm like, this seems really cool. I think this is a fit that can definitely work. And I do think that the Mavericks front office did a great job just for the long term aspect of they finally did what people thought they wouldn't, and that's get a true star to put next to Luca. And especially a star like Kyrie Irving, I think the first thing everybody's head is going to go to, Kyrie played with LeBron, right? Kind of a ball dominant guy, played a lot on the perimeter, did a lot of passing, kind of always like a triple double threat type player. That's I'm not going to say they're the exact same, but I think there's a lot of similarities between like the role that Luka plays in the offense and the role that LeBron probably played in the offense in Cleveland. So I think it's something that Kyrie Irving's done before and I'll probably be a little bit more willing to do in this situation, especially having a fresh environment, a fresh start. I know there was a lot of tension in Brooklyn. So I do think there could be a lot of good to come. And I do think Kyrie, if he plays to the potential we know he has, I think this could really take this team from a team we thought was going to make the playoffs to a team that could really make a deep run because nobody looks great. And the Mavericks have had stretches where they've looked quite good with just Luka as the star.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned like kind of the Luka LeBron comparison. I think I was watching JJ's podcast and they were talking about how like Luka kind of gets compared a little bit to LeBron, but also James Harden is like a comp. And I would say Kyrie played pretty good with James Harden too. Like when they were healthy and it was just him and Harden, they played pretty good and they were winning a lot of games that first season together. So, I'm excited for it. I was talking to some friends when Kyrie did announce or request a trade. And I was like, the place I want to see is Dallas, but I'm like, I don't think it's going to happen. So as Gabe said, he was surprised. I was very surprised to see, oh, that's the package that they accepted, especially when I saw like, the Lakers try to chime in. And I think it was the Suns offer Chris Paul and Jay Crowder and like some draft capital. So I'm like, that's the package that they decided to go with. So I don't know what kind of direction Brooklyn's going to. But for Dallas, it's exciting. We've never seen Luka with this caliber of a shot creator. Jalen Brunson was the best that he's ever played with. And they made it to the Western Conference Finals. They had a pretty successful run. Kyrie is an entirely different tier than Jalen Brunson. So this should be exciting. I'm hoping that, it goes well. Kyrie re-signs so we can see them together, for more seasons to come and not just, the rest of this season. But it definitely adds a different element to that Western Conference, man, because all the talk all season's been, Luka doesn't have that much help. They miss Jalen Brunson so much. And now they got that guy. Now they are going to be missing like Dorian Finney-Smith, who was a big piece, especially what they do defensively. But when you got two kind of shot creators like that, it's going to make them a tough out no matter who they go against, just, on paper.
Yeah, definitely. Like you guys said, I think shocked is a pretty good term for how a lot of people felt, definitely how I felt when I saw this trade. Like you guys said, I just didn't expect Dallas to pull the trigger on such a move. Now, offensively, of course, we know how dominant this is going to be. They're going to have to figure out some chemistry things, but offensively, this team is going to be really good. There's no doubt about that. And that by themselves is going to give them a chance come playoff times. They pretty much have a shot against anyone in a very open Western Conference right now. My biggest concern is the defense. The defense is really concerning to me. And we all know how much I value defense. We know I'm skeptical on Denver come playoff time because of the lack of defense. And Dallas are even worse than that. And they've just traded away their best wing defender. They're 24th in defensive rating this year. It's a lot worse than they were last year. Obviously, Christian Wood has been a big part of that because he's really helped their offense, but defensively, he's just not the same defensive impact that they had in Dwight Powell getting more minutes last year and Maxi Kleber getting more minutes last year. Him getting back from injury within the next week or two is going to be really important for their defense. So that's the biggest question mark for me. If I'm this Dallas team within the time of recording this over the next 16 hours or whatever it is till the deadline, they shouldn't be done. I think Christian Wood needs to be on the trade block. I think they need to be looking to move him for some pieces that fit this roster construction better because Christian Wood and Luke is a good fit. And it made sense before they had Kyrie to have more offensive production. I think they need to prioritize some guys that can protect the paint a bit better now, or if they move him for some better wing defenders, they need some more defensive pieces on this team more than they need the scoring of Christian Wood right now, in my opinion, especially come playoff time. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy who they should be answering trade calls on as well for similar reasons. If they can get better paint protection, if they can get better wing defenders, I think they need to prioritize a little bit more defensive help on this team. A 3-and-D wing would be ideal. Even a Jason Tate from the Rockets, if they could get someone like him for cheap, could be a valuable pickup. So I think they've done well getting Kyrie, but I think they've still done a bit of disservice to how good this team can actually be if they don't make another move or two before the deadline to properly fill out this roster on the defensive end. Going to be a really fun team either way, going to be a really competitive team either way, and I think they still have a shot in the West, but that lack of defense might hurt them a little bit if they don't make another move or two just to tinker around a little bit.
I would hope they can shape up kind of the defensive side and kind of take care of some of those weaknesses. I do think there is something to be said for, like, if Kyrie is going to stick around for a while, which you would assume so, making this kind of trade, I don't think they're really viewing this as like a half-season rental, like buy-in or kind of we're out type of thing. So given that, I do think there's a real situation where they don't do much else and they just kind of go into the offseason. Because, I mean, looking at it, it's like you're saying their defense was already not great, and it's like there's only 2 teams below them that are playing for anything. So out of anybody that they're going to be playing in games that matter, it's just like they're already going to have the worst defense. I don't know if that's something you can necessarily fix at a trade deadline. I don't know how many huge defensive pieces are really on the market. So I really think at this point, they might just go all in and say, yeah, we're just going to outshoot you. We're just going to outscore you, see how far that takes us, and then really build something to contend next season.
Yeah, the only issue with that, that's why I'm kind of agreeing with Dev. Like, I hope that they do push as much as they can to make moves. Kyrie's so damn unpredictable. We don't know what the hell he's doing. He's probably thinking of this. He could be thinking of this like, I might just end up in LA in the offseason. Like, that could be his thought process. So the way the Western Conference is shaping up right now, like the conversation we have every week, we don't know who the hell is the best team out there. They would be smart to go in as much as they can, make the trades necessary to build a real championship roster, or a team that can make that deep push to put themselves in the position to make it to the NBA Finals. Because the West is as wide open as it's probably going to be, right now, because there's so much just confusion and congestion. Why can't they be the team that steps out of that pack and make it to the finals? So hopefully tomorrow they are extremely buying, trying to shape up, fix up some of the defensive woes that could be possible on this team. I think it's good, though, because as Dev mentioned, they have the assets to do so. Like, I think a team would take a Christian Wood, if possible. Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy that can shoot the lights out. Teams will take him. And, we'll just see, man. We'll see. But I think they would be smart to try and maximize and show Kyrie, like, we're serious about trying to win a championship here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you touched on the unpredictability of Kyrie because, like you say, unless he has signed the dotted line, you just don't know if he's going to be back next year. So while you have him, I think you have to try and put the best pieces you can together around Luka and Kyrie, especially because the West is so wide open. And even as good as their offense is going to be, it's very, very, very rare that bad defensive teams do anything in the playoffs, never mind make the finals. Okay defensive teams occasionally can make a run, but as bad as the Mavericks have been defensively this year, as good as their offense may be, there's just no shot they're going to make a run. So
yeah,
getting Cleveland back will help, but I think they need to make a move as well.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of when Brooklyn made the Harden trade. In that first season, like offensively, they were dominant. When all 3 of them were on the court, it seemed like they didn't lose. But, all it really takes, like, even if Kyrie and Luka together is just this world-class offense, like, they can't be stopped. They're scoring 125 every night. All it takes is one guy to go down with an injury, and then it's like it's all on the shoulders of Luka or Kyrie. And then it's like, those deficiencies will show eventually. So, yeah, definitely I hope that they are super buyers tomorrow still.
I guess definitely for the short term, I think that's the best thing. And like you mentioned with Kyrie, we really never do know. Who knows if he even, like by the end of this season, who even knows what's going to be happening. So there's so much that goes on there. I guess I'm just not really sure what that pathway looks like. It's just like, how do they do enough to go from the only teams below them? You got like Spurs, Pistons, Rockets, Hornets, who aren't playing for nothing. And then you have Utah and Portland, who might be playing for a little bit more, like a play-in appearance, but aren't great. It's just, how do you go from that, trade away your best wing defender? What is your pathway to then becoming an average defense? I don't know how attainable that is with the pieces that are on the market.
Yeah.
I think part of their defense will be addition by subtraction too, because as much as Christian Wood is actually a little bit better defensively this year than he has been in previous years, he's still not a good defender. And if you can move him for a defensive piece and you get Maxi Kleba back, that might be enough to get you around league average. It won't be great, but it might be enough to get him around league average.
Yeah, and you're not getting to a top 10 defense unless you have guys that are hurt and they'll be back soon. Like, that just doesn't happen. It's very rare that happens. So, it's possible. The market, I'm glad you mentioned that, Gabe, because the market is just so weird. Like, we don't really know who's really available, what teams are buying, what teams could be selling. We don't really know. I think tomorrow it could be super chaotic and a bunch of random names just start getting moved, or it just might be a little quiet and this is the biggest trade that we'll see, or, maybe the most important trade that we will see.
I mean, yeah, 2 days ago, I did not expect a lot of players to be in the destinations they're at now. So
I mean, we thought Bones Highland was going to be the biggest name moved. like that's the discussion we were having like a week or two ago. So yeah, but I think one thing though, it's something fresh, man. The NBA never disappoints. Who really saw Kyrie Irving requesting a trade right after they were talking about contract extensions? Like, that kind of caught me off guard. But it doesn't surprise me because Brooklyn is just that kind of franchise. What's next for them? Like, they say they're not trading Kevin, but would it be smart for them to at least explore that option? Because teams would come knocking for Kevin Durant. We've seen that already.
Here's my thing with both Brooklyn and KD. When I went through a wave of thoughts of what I thought was going to happen when Kyrie requested a trade, and I have been wrong every step of the way. First, when Kyrie requested a trade, I was thinking, they're not going to trade him. They're just going to keep him. They're going to run with Kyrie and KD. This is going to be their last shot with their star duo. They'll see if they can win it this year. Clearly, I was wrong there as he was moved almost immediately. Initially, though, again, when I thought, okay, they're trading Kyrie, okay, this is your time now. You're getting assets back. Move off of KD. Start your rebuild with a ton of assets. You're in a good spot to do so now. You might as well cut your losses. The Kyrie and KD duo didn't work. Time to move on. Then I saw the trade return. I'm like, okay, maybe not. So now I'm in a situation where you got back another really good wing defender in Dorian Finney-Smith. You've got him and Royce O'Neal now, who they've done really well to acquire two really good 3-and-D wings over the past 6 to 8 months, which is really hard to do in this NBA where those types of players are so valuable and so coveted by every team across the league. You added back some scoring production and guard play as well, and Dinwiddie to obviously not do the same level of production as Kyrie, but still fill a bit of the void in there alongside KD for some of the shot creation and playmaking. And even though you're still lacking the second star, they have enough secondary shot creation and playmaking. And most importantly, I think have a really good defense now. You have a DPOY candidate in Claxton. You have another solid defender still in Ben Simmons. You've got Royce O'Neal. You've got Dorian Finney-Smith. There's a lot of solid defensive pieces on this team now, to the point that this team could probably be a borderline top 10 defense period in this league. Throw that alongside KD and some of the other secondary shot creation. Even without Kyrie, I still really like this team. I still think they have a outside chance of being a contender this year. And I'd say keep KD and run it back, man. I think this defense is as good as it's been since KD's been there. And KD with a good defense, I can't count that out.
Yeah, there's been a really big just like revolving door of stars around KD, and different, like, there's been differences in the amount of depth over the time he's been there for sure. But I think right now, this is probably one of the best like collections you can get around a solo star. Like Devin said, this team is already 13th in defense. and got better talent-wise on that side of the floor. I think just trading Kyrie and getting back Dorian Finney-Smith, I mean, just from a defensive side, like that's an improvement. Going from that, it's like I think that's probably the way to build around a solo star. If that's what you're going to do, this is your guy. They've got some shooting with, I mean, Curry, Joe Harris, still a couple guys there that can knock down threes. Yuta Watanabe, he was hot early in the season. I do think there's a recipe there for success. It's just how far can a solo star team go? And we saw like Luka go pretty far last year in the West, but I don't know. I feel like I have a hard time personally trusting solo star teams to do really significant things. This era just seems to be so much about duos. And it's like now Dallas just got their duo, and now it's just like KD and a lot of role players. And while those role players might be nice, I feel like it might get into a situation where they're like, we're going to throw everything at KD, somebody else beat us. And while they have talent, while they have guys who can knock down shots, I feel like we've seen so many times that those guys end up being inconsistent, and then it leads to nobody else is able to beat the opponent. And that's when a team like Boston or a team like Milwaukee is just going to kill you.
Maybe Cam Thomas is going to be that second guy. I'm sorry, scoring 40 points in 3 straight games. That makes me a little interested, man. But yeah, it's interesting because they making that Kyrie trade, they did get back 2 very quality players. On top of like a team that they made moves in the offseason to become a deeper team. Like they made a lot of moves in the offseason that made them a deeper basketball team, which is what they lacked last season, especially when they got to the playoffs. You know, Blake Griffin was getting playoff minutes, which is just not good. Seth Curry was having to guard Jaylen Brown. That's just not good. But like you said, they got 2 good 3-and-D wings now. And they got guys like they may not have that second star, but they got guys who can be a second star on some nights. You know, I believe Cam Thomas can. Like he has that scoring ability. I think Spencer Dinwiddie can be that. Even a guy like TJ Warren can give you maybe 15 off the bench some nights. Like they got guys. You know, Seth Curry can have nights. Joe Harris can have nights where it gets hot. It's interesting. We just got to see Kevin get healthy. So I'm kind of with you guys. Like, go ahead, run the rest of the season, see how it goes, and maybe go into next season. You know, if you guys have a good run, maybe make some extra moves to just strengthen this core. And who knows, man? All it takes is a little bit of luck to get out of your conference. Like that's just takes a little bit of luck, maybe some injury luck, and then you find yourself in the NBA Finals. Like it's possible.
Yeah, personally, the Cam Thomas factor is just such an unknown to me because obviously this 3-game stretch has been insane. But even before that, in the past, like we've seen him have some of these just crazy performances where we're like, who is this guy and why is he scoring a bazillion points when he's not in the rotation half the time? And from watching him play, like he takes number 1 option type shots and he shoots the ball a lot. And
For sure.
I need to see his play style translate and just at least be like practiced or applied next to Kevin Durant. Because while I've seen him do good things, it's never while the other guys are playing. And am I saying that he can't do that? I'm not. But I am saying I think we need to see that before we start talking about it being a thing. Because it's like every time the team is healthy, it's like he's not even in the rotation. It's the strangest thing in the world for a guy to go from scoring 30 to not playing when half the time he's scoring 30 and wins or at least close losses. Like it's not like it's garbage time. And so it really is just this strange dynamic because I've said all of that without even mentioning the fact that you have a 34-year-old star player and this like guy who's now on the come up out of nowhere is 21. It's very interesting to me.
I don't think it's as weird because, I mean, half his rookie season was with Kevin Durant and James Harden there, and then Kyrie came back. So it kind of makes sense why he wasn't getting consistent playing time. And, this season has been a little spotty hit here and there. Mainly, you got Kevin, you got Kyrie. You added all these guys in the offseason. You got a lot of guard play already with Kyrie there. So it's like, do we really need another guy that takes those type of shots? Now they might need a guy that takes those kind of shots. I think what might make a difference is you got Jacque Vaughn as the head coach and not Steve Nash. Like that might make a big time difference here. So I don't know. Like it still is unknown because we haven't seen him do this kind of stuff with Kevin Durant on the court. But I think I would have a little more faith in it happening than him just all of a sudden falling off a cliff once KD gets back.
Yeah, definitely. And someone's got to replace the void of scoring from Kyrie. And he might be the guy who comes off as their sixth guy, or the sixth man off the bench, becomes that primary, secondary scorer alongside Dinwiddie. And there's a legitimate role for him now on this team. And like you say, Jacques Vaughn is now the guy, and he might have a little bit more vote of confidence because of that and because of this recent stretch of games. So still a bit of an unknown, but definitely gives a little bit more intrigue to what Brooklyn can do moving forward into the playoffs. With that being said, let us know down in the comments below what your guys' thoughts are on this deal for Brooklyn and for Dallas, where KD is now the lone star in Brooklyn, and we see Kyrie Irving playing alongside Luka Doncic. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.